Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter Rise, and today I'm going to be bringing you my Sword and Shield guide. Now, in previous Monster Hunter games, the developers would actually recommend this as one of the best weapons for newcomers because it is a fairly easy weapon to pick up and play. Its combos have pretty much low animation commitment, which allows for quite a little bit of correction whenever you are fighting a monster. You have a shield for when you are caught completely off guard, so you can block some attacks, even though, you know, the Sword and Shield's shield is not going to block anything that's going to hit too hard, really. You're still going to take the brunt of the damage, but, you know, it can be quite forgiving for someone that is just starting out in Monster Hunter. However, that has unfortunately led to the wrongful notion that that is just what this weapon is. A bit of a stepping stone, if you will, a weapon that you will use until you can graduate to something new and improved, something bigger and better that, you know, is going to be more complex, is going to be more satisfying. Well, I'm here to dispel that notion, because not only can the Sword and Shield duke it out with the best of them, it can do so in incredible style, and there's a fairly deep layer of complexity to this weapon that most players are completely oblivious to because they just see it as a newbie weapon. So, as per usual, we're going to be starting with the basics, and we have all of the default switch skills enabled. Now, for those of you that have been messing around with the switch skills and you don't really remember which ones are the default ones, they are Advancing Slash, Hard Bash Combo, and the Windmill Silk Mine Art. And as we progress through the video, I will naturally talk about the other switch skills, the advantages in my opinion, and where do I think you should use them, as well as the other Silk Mine Art that you can use for this amazing weapon. Like right next to the gun lance, this is like my second favorite weapon in the game, which is why, obviously, this is the next guide that I'm working on. So, let's start with the basics. I always like to just talk about the three buttons that pretty much every weapon has in common. You got your X, which is your basic attacks, you have your A, which is your alternate attacks, and you have your ZR, which is your blocking button. Okay? That is the basic function of the Sword and Shield. Basic attack, alternate attack, block. So now let's get a little bit more creative with it. What happens if I spam a bunch of basic attacks on this monster? I'm just walking up to it and I'm just going to spam X. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a 4-hit combo. That is your X combo. Now, an important thing about this combo is that there was a hit in there that sounded a little bit different from the other ones if you're paying attention. Look, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That little third attack, you know, a little bit different, right? It made a bit more of a bashing sound than a slashing sound. Now, if you pay attention to the animation, the third attack is a shield bash that you do. And it is important to distinguish between shield bash attacks and slashing attacks because shield bash attacks don't actually deal elemental damage. Now, we could be here talking about elemental damage for hours because, you know, there's a lot to say about elemental damage. So I'm going to give you the most basic of notions of elemental damage, which a lot of people are going to correct me and say, oh, it's wrong because of this and it's wrong because of that. But as a general rule of thumb, when it comes to elemental damage, it's like the faster your weapon attacks, the better it will benefit from having a higher elemental damage. The slower your weapon attacks, the better it will benefit from having raw damage. Okay, so just keep that rule of thumb in mind. This is not something that is a straight up fact, but it is going to just give you a basic notion of how things operate in Monster Hunter. And once you get more involved in the game, then you can look up things like motion values and how that works for elemental damage and just regular damage and so on and so forth. So remember, fast attacks, elemental damage, good. So, the important reason as to why I'm distinguishing between the shield attacks and the slashing attacks is because, so the shield attacks don't actually deal elemental damage. Well, why would you want to attack with the shield then? Because the shield attacks instead deal KO damage. So if I was to hit this monster's head with a bunch of shield attacks, it would eventually get knocked out. And we'll talk more about that when I teach you guys how to use shield bash. But for now, just know that your basic X combo has a shield attack in the middle of it, which will do a little bit of KO damage in the middle of all the other slashes. Okay, and now you guys are like, okay, that's all nice and well, but that particular attack is going to keep me rooted in place. It's not really approaching me to the monster. So if the monster's a little bit far away, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to get there, right? Yeah, well, there's another attack for that. For starters, if your weapon is sheathed, which you should sheath your weapon from time to time in case you need to run and stuff like that, you can press the R button for running. If your weapon is sheathed and you're coming off of sheath and you're running towards a monster, for instance, you press X, you get this. This is the advancing slash. Now, there is a way to perform advancing slash without having to sheath your weapon, because that's just inconvenient, constantly having to sheath your weapon to attack. Like, are we playing a greatsword or something? Like, what's the deal here, right? So, the way to do advancing slash is you press X and A at the same time. So this is your gap closer. This is your opener for most attacks. So whenever you're fighting a monster, usually you get just about in range and boom, advancing slash, X plus A. And after that, you can follow advancing slash with your regular X combo. And there you go. Now, there's more than the sword and shield than just X. Like I told you, there's also the alternate combo. So let's talk about the alternate combo, which is the A button. If you stand next to the monster and you spam A, you get this. This is without any directional input. That means you are not flicking the L stick in any direction, because things change in Monster Hunter depending on whether or not you are flicking the left analog stick. So if you're moving forward and you're pressing A, you're going to get this. This is the shield bash combo, which is something very, very different. So you can either have, if you're standing still, not moving, and spam A, you get this. If you're moving forward and spamming A, you get this. So like I told you, shield attacks, no elemental damage. You'll notice that the damage is less. Why are they important? Because if you get access to the monster's head and you start smacking him around with a shield, let me do that again because our KO values are not that great. Eventually, you get a KO. So, when you get a KO, monster falls down, big opening. So whenever you have an opening on the monster's head to bash him around with a shield a little bit, it's always a good idea. Another advantage of using your shield attack, which like I said, forward A, is that your shield attack does not care if a monster's hide is rough or not. So for instance, if I try attacking it normally, in the back here, it's going to bounce off. And it's going to interrupt your combo. It's going to be bad. Why? Because this area is too rough, and your weapon can't actually penetrate it, even with blue sharpness. I don't know if white sharpness goes through this, but I don't think so. So, even with white sharpness, you can't penetrate this. There is an armor skill that allows you to do this, in case you guys really want to get into that. It's called Mind's Eye. So you can look for armor pieces with Mind's Eye, and you'll be able to pierce right through this, whatever. But, as I was saying, your shield doesn't care about this. So if you press forward and A, you can still deal damage. So if you need to deal damage to an area that is protected, you can do it with your shield. Your shield doesn't care if that area is protected or not. Your sword will, though, so keep that in mind. This is just in case you're fighting something like, say, a Baroth and you need to bash him upside the head a little bit, you can use your shield bashes to smack him around. By the way, the damage numbers in this particular set might be a little bit inconsistent. Like sometimes you'll see low damage, other times you'll see really high damage, because this is just a weird set. I'll eventually tell you guys about these crazy sets that I'm working on for Rise, because they're a lot of fun. But for now, don't worry too much about the damage numbers and just worry about soaking up the information. Now, I told you guys about the A combo, told you guys about the X combo. What if I told you you can bring those two together like a nice little married couple? You can basically just run up to the monster with X plus A, remember, advancing slash, right? And then you can spam the X combo. When you get to the end, you can spam the A combo. And in there, I was inputting a direction, so that gave us the hard bash, but you can also do it without inputting a direction, and you can get the slash. Nice, huh? It's pretty cool. Pretty friggin' sweet. You get your advancing slashes, you get your X slashes, you get your A slashes. And now, I hear you guys say, but Rurikhan, in Monster Hunter World, there was something that allowed me to basically redirect my attacks if I pressed a direction in X. That thing does not seem to be present in Rise anymore. Actually, it is. It is in the form of a brand new attack called the Spinning Reaper. And that attack is X plus A. So if after any attack you press X plus A, you get this, which is a Roundslash. Even though if you do the Roundslash at the end of a combo, it's called the Spinning Reaper. That's why I called it the Spinning Reaper. So for instance, if I do X, 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 X plus A, There's the Spinning Reaper right there. You can see the name. That's why I called it that. Anyway, that particular attack allows you to redirect your combo at any point in time. So say, for instance, you're attacking a monster, and it was here, but suddenly it, like, did a 180, jumped up behind you. Well, you can be attacking here, and then suddenly press back and XA, and your character turns around, and you can continue attacking. Or, say the monster is now to your left. You can do X plus A. You can rotate in any direction you want with X plus A. Just do it after a combo that you're working on, and you can turn yourself around. And this used to be something that people used for an infinite sword and shield combo that I personally never really liked, but I will talk about it later in the game. For now, I would like you guys to focus on the fact that this particular attack, the X plus A, is something that will actually deal more damage if you do it at the end of a combo. So say, for instance, if I do X and X plus A, that did 68 damage. But if I do all of the X combo, and then at the end do X plus A, that was 120 damage. So if you do your X plus A at the end of a combo, it's going to deal significantly more damage. You can also do this at the end of the A combo. So 1, 2, 3, boom, 120 damage. So either at the end of the X combo or at the end of the A combo, if you press X plus A, you're going to deal additional damage. And remember, you can reposition this just in case the monster moves. So like, for instance, I'm attacking in this direction, but the head is to my right. I can attack towards the head. So keep that in mind. This is like one of the basic new mechanics of Monster Hunter Rise is this Spinning Reaper attack that I personally really like. You can also do it after the Shield Bash combo. So you can go bash, 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 Spinning Reaper. Okay? And there it did a little bit less damage because, like I said, my damage numbers are going to be a little bit inconsistent because of some of the skills that I am using here. Okay? Now, another thing that they did in World, and I'm just referencing this for people that are coming from World, I'm not skipping over any of the moves or anything like that, was after the A combo, if you spammed A, you would do a back hop. Well, that doesn't happen anymore now, does it? Because I'm spamming A, and there's no back hop. Well, they changed it so that you manually have to do the back hop. And personally, I think this is a very good change because a lot of people that were playing World probably thought you would have to go through a whole combo just to get to the back hop, when in fact, you can get to the back hop whenever you want. You don't even need to do anything. You can just, back hop. Boom, done. And some of you guys are like, how's he doing back hops without doing anything else? Yeah, we'll talk about some back hop tech. But anyways, for now, just be aware. The way to get the back hop is pressing back and A at any point after you perform an action. Okay, so say, for instance, you attack once, back in A. Back hop. You attack with your A combo, back in A. Oops, I didn't press back, sorry. You attack with your A, back in A. Back hop. You roll, back in A. Back hop. Rolling, you can actually get to the back hop by just pressing A. So if you roll, you can instantly go into a back hop. If, however, you roll and then press back, you can actually shift the direction of the back hop 180 degrees, which is pretty nice. And that guy's like, okay, so why are you giving so much importance to this back hop of yours? Because the back hop can be charged. Ooh, now that's a little bit more interesting now, is it? And here's another cool thing. The back hop has invincibility frames. Ah? So while you're doing this, you get invincibility frames, so you can dodge monster attacks and you can counterattack. I'll leave it to you to experiment, when you'll be able to pull these off, but just know that usually the invincibility frames on the back hop are fairly generous. Now, if you actually land the attack after the back hop, that's going to send you up. It's going to send you into an aerial attack on the monster that you're facing. The aerial attack, you will be able to follow up by pressing X. Oops, sorry, messed that up. And that will do a slash. And that's a jumping slash, that's aerial damage, which contributes damage to eventually mounting the monster and doing the wyvern riding mechanics. Or instead of that, you can press A and you get a shield bash. Now the shield bash actually does a significant amount of damage, particularly if you land it in the head. And not only it deals a significant amount of damage, it will usually hit twice. It will hit at the tippy top of the hit and at the bottom. For some reason, I'm not getting the double hits here, but you will usually be able to get 2 hits off of it. Anyway, Falling Bash, you can use it once again either with slashing or with the slam. The slam will do KO, so if you're able to slam it on the monster's face, pretty damn nice. Now you guys will notice that when I charge, there almost seems to be 2 levels of that charge, right? That's whatever it is with that animation, it's the same damage. It's always the same damage, so you can just release it instantly the second you see the first flash, and you're going to deal the same damage as if you hold it back. It just gives you more time to plan your attack in case you need to delay it a little bit further. If the monster's still active in an attack animation or something, you might want to hold it off, or you might want to just instantly jump back into it. Now, another thing that you can do with the back hop is that you can go into a skill called the Perfect Rush. Now, this is quite a bit of a tricky skill. The way you do it is you kind of cancel the back hop by pressing X immediately after you begin it. And you get that, okay? But before we get the Perfect Rush, let's talk about how do you do the back hop without actually performing any other action. Because right now I told you guys, you perform an action, press back and A, get the back hop. Or you roll, press A, get the back hop, right? But you've seen me do it a couple of times where I don't actually perform any action. As a matter of fact, I can even do it from draw. Oops, from draw it's a little bit tricky now, but yeah. You can do it straight up from drawing. So the way you do it is you hold your block just before you press back A. So in essence, you are performing an action, but it's barely noticeable. The action you're performing is blocking. So basically, if you just lightly tap on the block and then you do back and A, that gives you the back step without you having to do anything. So you can be running up to the monster, back step, and the Perfect Rush. Now you guys are like, what the hell was even that? That right there is Perfect Rush. Now the way Perfect Rush works, and this was something that initially when they introduced it in Iceborne, let me tell you guys right now. First thing that I said is, this move is ridiculous. I'll never be able to perform it. I hate it. Why would they do something like this to one of my favorite weapons? I'm not kidding. Like if you go back and you watch those live streams, I said, there's no way I'll ever be able to pull this move off. That is literally what I said. And then 2 weeks later, I was pulling it off pretty much flawlessly. Like, I still missed the eventual Perfect Rush. But, yeah. Perfect Rush is a time-based attack. So I'm going to try and do it actually away from the monster so that you guys get a good idea of what is happening. So when you do Perfect Rush, is you basically do a back hop. You cancel the back hop with X, and then there's a timing as to when you're supposed to press the button. So if you just spam X, let me show you what happens. Spamming X. It's going to do all of the motions of Perfect Rush, but none of them. I actually landed one of them by sheer chance. But, you know, you're not going to be actually getting the proper attack values out of Perfect Rush if you just spam. It's a timed movement. And usually the identifiers of it is when your character pauses. There's like 3 different identifiers. Your character glows red. That's when you're supposed to press the next input. Your controller vibrates. It's also when you're supposed to press the next input. But the thing that helped me was the animation. I'm going to tell you when I actually press the buttons, and hopefully that will help you get a better understanding of Perfect Rush. So, let me just... Okay, X, Perfect Rush. Now. That is the Perfect Rush with all of the moves properly executed. To me, the thing that helped me was just analyzing the animations. There's usually a little bit of a delay before your character gets ready to do the next move, and you can usually identify it based on the animations. This is also one of the reasons why in options, if you go to game settings, there's something called player silhouette. This is why I have it on type 1. Because you see with the silhouette on, I can actually pull off the Perfect Rush even without looking at my character, because I recognize the animations. And that's one of the reasons why I like playing with a silhouette on. Sometimes wings get in the way and stuff like that, and I've just gotten used to looking at my character's animations through the silhouette in case I actually need to finish a perfect rush without being able to look at my character. So now let's talk about combining all of these things together. You can basically go up to a monster, do your X combo, your A combo, your spinning Reaper, and then do a back hop into a perfect rush. And then at the end of the perfect rush, you get launched upwards. So once you learn how to perform a proper perfect rush, you're going to get launched upwards and you're going to be like, okay, so what do I do now? Well, when you're launched upwards, there's 3 options. You can press A for a shield bash. You can press X for a slash. Just get launched up again. Although the slash with the X is the last thing that I would advise you to do as a finisher for perfect rush, because it'll deal the least amount of damage and it's just not particularly useful. But there's another one which is X plus A, and that gives you a plunging thrust, which is the in World this move was called the Helm Breaker. And I know some of you guys are like, Helm Breaker? That's a longsword skill! No. The longsword skill was called Spirit Helm Breaker. The Sword and Shield got the actual Helm Breaker. So, just remember, you can either press X, A, or X plus A. In most situations, I tend to default for A, because I usually tend to go for the monster's head whenever I'm doing perfect rushes. Just pay attention to the ridiculous amount of animation commitment that exists in perfect rush. This is something that you want to do when the monster is exhausted, when the monster is downed, when you have a big opening. Not something that you're going to be doing all the friggin' time. Unless you're, you know, a perfect speedrunner and whatnot, then sure, you're going to be... Speedrunners will be able to analyze the monsters to the nth degree and know exactly which frame to start their perfect rush on. But if you're just starting out with the weapon, you'll usually want to focus on perfect rushes when the monster is downed. There's also a way to perform a perfect rush without getting launched into the air to give you a little bit more control over the moves that you are doing. So the way that we've been doing perfect rush so far is I've been using X for every single input of the perfect rush. But if instead of just using X, you use A on the final input of perfect rush, you're instead going to get the spinning Reaper move that I told you guys about. So, you know, that's another way of finishing up a perfect rush in case you don't want to get launched into the air. Maybe you think that you don't have enough of an opening. Maybe you think that you're going to get punished if you're going to get launched into the air. You can finish it that way as well. But, yeah, you can do some pretty hefty combos with this weapon. As you guys can see here, with the spinning Reaper at the end, and the perfect rush, and the back hops, and all of this. And there's a lot of room for you guys to practice this out. Also remember that if you do a back hop, you don't necessarily have to go for a perfect rush, right? You can actually also just hold down the back hop and then go for charge slash, so that you can then fall down with a shield bash and all of that stuff. But by now, you know the basic tools of the basic mode of the Sword and Shield. So now, it's time to talk about Silkbind moves. Now, our first Silkbind move is ZL and X. It's Falling Shadow. Now, Falling Shadow gives you the option of also doing the same things that you can do at the end of a perfect rush combo. Basically, jumps you towards the monster. If you hit, sends you flying. And at the end of that, you can go do a slash, or you can do a shield bash by pressing A, or you can do X plus A and do the plunging thrust. You guys are wondering, so what's the advantage between, you know, the shield bash or the plunging thrust? Because obviously the slash is not the most optimal thing to do. Well, the plunging thrust is going to take advantage of that elemental damage that you have on your weapon, so the higher elemental damage you have, the better the plunging thrust is going to be, because it's going to do multiple hits. On the other hand, the shield bash is going to do KO damage, and the higher your raw damage is, the more damage that particular skill is going to do. So if you have a weapon that has low elemental damage, then probably the shield bash is what you want to go for, assuming that you have high raw damage in that weapon to make up for the fact that you don't have that elemental damage. On the other hand, if your weapon has a lot of elemental damage and not that much of raw, then you want to do the plunging thrust, because that's going to be what takes the most advantage of it. So now let's talk about your other Silkbind skill, which is the Windmill. And that is ZL and A. If you press ZL and A, you're going to get this. Pretty sweet, huh? Deals a lot of AoE damage, spins around all over the place. Pretty good for elemental damage, also pretty decent with raw damage. It's just a good skill all around. And as a matter of fact, I would say if you're someone who is a newcomer to the Sword and Shield, this is definitely the skill that I would recommend you stick with even after you unlock the other Silkbind move the Sword and Shield has. Now, why did I make the monster stomp though? You know, there's got to be a reason for that. That is because your Windmill actually have a couple of invincibility frames when you start doing it. So that didn't actually hit me because I did the Windmill timed perfectly, right? Once again, look, right under the foot. No damage, no nothing, no knockback, no nothing. This is very good. When a monster is about to hit you, you can actually avoid that hit by just using the Windmill right before you get hit. It is going to require quite a bit of timing for you to get used to it, but it is a very good skill to have on your corner alongside your other Silkbind attack. So now let's talk about a brand new move that came with Monster Hunter Rise, and that is your Guard Slash. You guys are like, well, the Guard Slash is not new. We could do that in previous games. Basically, you have to hold down your block button and press the A button. Now you'll notice that this has like this blue glow to it. That is because this is actually a counter. So now let's actually go ahead and parry this. Ooh, it even does a shield bash. So notice that. You can counter that and you just instantly shield bash the monster as well. If you nail the timing down, which I'm still practicing because I don't tend to use this particular move very often. But you can instantly attack the monster. However, a shield bash is like, really parrying just for a shield bash? Not really a big deal. So you can follow that up by pressing X. And you'll go into a perfect rush. Now that sounds a little bit nicer now, doesn't it? But that's not all. See, that particular perfect rush that we did right there actually moved this forward. So like, let's pay attention here. Notice how it jumped this forward. There's another one that you can do, which is if instead of pressing X, you press A. If I can nail this parry timing down. You can just start a perfect rush right on the spot. Now you guys are like, why didn't you show us that with the stomp? Because the stomp is going to require a significant amount of guard. Because this parry will not parry everything. This particular projectile attack here is something that you can parry. But there are a lot of other moves that you will not be able to parry because you will get sent reeling. And that is why I showed you this with this particular thing. So if you want to be doing a lot of things with this guard slash parry attack, one of the things that you want to invest in your set is going to be in some guard decorations, some iron wall decorations, to make sure that you're actually able to withstand the blow so that you can do the counter. And remember, that counter requires a lot of timing, but it also works with the roars of the monsters. So you can actually use that on some of the weaker roars, and you'll be able to counter the roar of the monster with that guard slash. And that kind of covers a lot of the basics of Sword and Shield. There's also the Infinite combo that a lot of people used to love in Monster Hunter World, and I personally never liked it. But basically, instead of using the round slash from X to reset the combo, you have to do X plus A. So you can go, for instance, X plus A, X plus A, X plus A. So it's like, it's about chaining it together, because I know that a lot of people like doing this. Personally, I don't like it, and when we get to the combo sections, I'll tell you the combos that I tend to do. But it is doable. Instead of using X, you have to use X plus A. And I figured I'd mention it here. It's just, this is one of those moves that I personally don't really like. I know that there's a lot of people that play Sword and Shield that love doing the elemental round slash combo thing, but it's really not for me, and I don't know. I never felt that particular combo flowed very well, but this is a personal opinion, and I feel that I should at least mention it. If you guys want to try that out for yourselves, go ahead. I think that right now the best one is probably going to be X, X, A, A, X, A, X, X, A, A, X, A, X, X, A, A, X, A, and you can keep on doing this forever, but I don't find this combo particularly satisfying because you're always stealing the actual big impact of the spinning Reaper, which comes at the end of the combo. So I don't know how efficient that particular combo is, but you can do the infinite combo. Like I said, in my opinion, it should be X, X, A, A, X, A, and you can keep on slashing away forever like that with the infinite combo. But anyways, it's time for us to switch things up and talk about some of the switch skills. So for the first switch skill, we're going to be swapping things up with the advancing slash, and we're going to go into sliding slash. Now, sliding slash essentially replaces your advancing slash, which is an interesting change that pretty much unlocks the aerial sword and shield style that we had in Generations Ultimate. I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but it is fairly similar. So the way it works is your advancing slash now causes you to slide. And it does this 2-movement attack. And you can do it very much like you would if your weapon was unsheathed by pressing X plus A. You will go into that slide. Now the cool thing is if you hit a monster while you're doing this, it launches you in the air. And when you're in the air, you have the option to do another slash or to do a shield bash. Unfortunately, this does not allow you to do the plunging thrust with X plus A because I think that would probably be a little bit overpowered. So if you try to doing X plus A, it's just going to give you the jumping slash. But you can do shield bashes, which is what I tend to do with this because it's a lot of fun. Not to mention, it's a really nice follow-up to another skill. And now you guys are like, okay, so when should I use advancing slash versus using sliding slash? What are the advantages? And the advantage here is very simple. The sliding slash is going to have more animation commitment to it than the advancing slash. So if you happen to miss the monster by a little bit, you're going to get screwed. Because basically you're locked into this animation until it ends. And so that's a little bit of a problem. You can also do a jumping slash by yourself if you press A. Your character will throw itself in the air even if you don't hit anything. But it's not going to be a particularly powerful hit, right? But it is an option to kind of exit out of it. But again, just notice the animation commitment. Now, the way that I choose between using the sliding slash or the advancing slash is by default, I like going with sliding slashes because I always liked aerial sword and shield back in Generations Ultimate. So it's kind of like a personal preference thing for me as well. But what I notice is if I'm fighting a monster and I'm constantly missing the sliding slash and I'm noticing that I'm missing it because either the monster is moving too much or the monster is too big and I can't land it in a way that I'm constantly doing falling bashes, then I go and I swap to the advancing slash because there's less animation commitment and I'm not going to get punished as hard by the monster for making that mistake. So basically this is going to be one of those cases where you judge on a monster by monster basis. I believe I swapped it around on an Anjanath at one point, and there have been other monsters. I think I might have swapped it around for a Zenogre as well, because it was giving me a couple of problems with the sliding slash. I kept falling short because he was dodging me all the time. So I swapped that to the advancing slash so that I wouldn't be constantly locked into the sliding slash animation and getting punished by it. So, you know, that's the way that I handled that particular situation. But let's talk about another switch skill now. And the next one is going to replace your hard basher combo for the drill slash combo. And personally, I love the drill slash. Now, anyone who's played Generations Ultimate will be familiar with one of the skills, anyone who's played Sword and Shield, that is, will be familiar with one of the skills that we had there, which was the Blade Dance. And the Blade Dance for Sword and Shield was a very elaborate move that did a bunch of hits. But the final hit of the Blade Dance was this. Now this is a pretty cool move. It appears to benefit more from elemental damage than raw damage, but it will replace your shield bash combo. So in order to perform it, you have to input a direction on the left analog stick and spam A, and you get this. Now you can follow this up with a spinning Reaper as well, and you get the maximum damage spinning Reaper, which is very, very good. And it's a very satisfying move to pull off. So I do it all the time. As a matter of fact, I have a tendency to combo it with the sliding slash and basically go like sliding slash, into bash, into another bash, and then into a drill slash, into a spinning reaper. But we'll talk more about that when I talk about the combos that I tend to go for when I'm attacking monsters. But just know that you can swap hard basher for drill slash. And now you guys are like, okay, so when should I use one over the other? Again, this is largely to personal preference, but it also depends on how much do you need to hit a monster with your shield. Like, for instance, it might be a Baroth. If you're fighting a Baroth and you're trying to hit him in the face, it's going to bounce off because you're not going to have your shield basher combo anymore. So that is something to consider. You can shield bash once, but if you go for it twice, it's going to give you the drill slash. That's going to be a disadvantage. So it's not always going to be you know, a night and day thing. The other decision that you might make is, hey, this monster is particularly vulnerable to stunning attacks. So therefore, maybe you want to have the hard basher combo instead of the drill slash. But personally, I tend to default to these two. Sliding slash into drill slash. Very satisfying combo to pull off personally. And finally, we get to talk about the final switch skill. And that is the Metsu Shoryugeki. Now, the Metsu Shoryugeki is a move that also acts as a counter. Now, in my opinion, I think that the cost of this move is a little bit overtuned, considering the amount of damage that it actually deals, because this move costs 2 wire bugs. And I think the best bang for your buck is going to be on Windmill, because it is a much safer skill to use, and Metsu Shoryugeki replaces the Windmill. The Windmill is much more forgiving, also much more punishing, and does not require you to guard point every single time. Like, you can use the Windmill whenever you want. Whereas, for instance, if I use the Shoryugeki just now, you get the Dragon Punch, and then you can come back down with a Falling Bash. Which is pretty nice, you know, deal some damage. Pretty good, not too shabby. You can also do the the plunging thrust if you want by pressing X plus A, which is also very good follow-up to the Metsu Shoryugeki. But you guys are like, okay, so it's kind of like a Dragon Punch. Yeah, it looks pretty cool, right? Yeah, but the thing is, this move is definitely designed to be used as a guard point. So you have the slam here, and if we time it just right, notice how the impact was much bigger. He spinned around, did all of those hits while he was going up. It's like, to me, it feels like a punishment if you don't land this guard point. And it's a big punishment because it's a 2 wire bug punishment. So it costs you quite a bit. And the timing is pretty tight. So this is going to require quite a bit of practice. So in my book, the main reason to use Metsu Shoryugeki is style, baby. Woo! It's all about the style. No, in all honesty, it's a lot of fun because you can counter just about anything that a monster does to you, and that's always satisfying. But if you happen to miss that counter, it's a lot more Punisher, obviously. So, you know, it's one of those things that, do you feel like countering a monster? Is this a monster that you feel comfortable countering? Is this a monster that has a large enough hitbox to take advantage? Because we have a beefy Tetranodon here. But, like, think about applying this to a Mizutsune, right? His body is much more close to the ground. You're not going to get as many hits of the Shoryugeki in. It's not going to feel nearly as good, right? But it's one of those things. Personally, I like using it because I think it's really stylish, and I try to use it whenever I can. But if I'm having problems with a monster, then I'll swap to the Windmill, and I'll just go for that. But, yeah. I believe at this point, that is most, if not all, of the moves of the Sword and Shield. And if I missed anything, let me know in the comment section down below, because you guys know I specialize in Gunlance. Sword and Shield is like my second go-to, and this is still a pretty fresh game, so to speak. Monster Hunter Rise is still pretty fresh, so I might have missed a couple of moves here or there. But now, we're going to be getting into combos. Okay, and so for combos, I swapped this back to Advancing Slash to begin with, because this is how you're going to kind of like begin the weapon. And usually the way that I would open up on a monster when at the very start with advancing slash and all of that stuff is I will combo right from advancing slash into the A combo, because a lot of monsters in Monster Hunter Rise are fairly fast, so I don't feel like I have enough time to go into the X combo, and the A combo hits a lot harder. So I just skip the X combo altogether and I use it for the opener, and then I go straight into the A combo, the slasher combo, not the hard bash combo in most situations. So it'll be something like this. And then the spinning reaper with X plus A at the end. So basically you do advancing slash, spam A, until you get that final round slash, and then spinning reaper. This is like my bread and butter combo for the beginning of the game. And after that, you would usually reposition, so it's like I would dodge so that you don't stay in the same spot. And then maybe I'll even do, you know, another combo. If the monster is standing still, I might actually follow up the spinning reaper with a back hop. So a back hop into a perfect rush. And then, you know, you do the perfect rush. I always try to go for the aerial perfect rush and sometimes falling bash. And depending on the monster, right, if I feel like I can dish out some elemental DPS, I might instead go for the plunging thrust finisher. But that's usually the combo that I go for. So advancing slash into A combo, into spinning reaper if I have enough time, into backstep, into perfect rush, into the jump, into the plunging thrust. Always depending on how much time I actually have. If I feel like I want to try and knock down the monster, obviously I'm going to go advancing slash into the hard bash combo, finishing always with the spinning reaper. Do remember, always finish your combos with the spinning reaper. If the monster gives me an opening, I'll then backstep into perfect rush. Can go for the plunging thrust or the bash. And do remember, if you have a monster down, perfect rush is, at least from my experimentation so far, the hardest hitting thing that you can do. So you should try to do the perfect rush if the monster is down. Now, if instead of that you have the drill slash combo, before you get the sliding slash, so you'd have advancing slash and drill slash, I would go for the advancing slash into the drill slash. So that's just keep a button pressed, keep your analog stick pressed forward, advancing slash, and spam A. Then follow that with a spinning reaper, and that's like your bread and butter, right? Advancing slash into a shield bash, into a spinning reaper, into a back hop. Obviously, the back hop is always like the finisher, if you have enough time to go for it. You know, and you just keep this combo going. This is like your bread and butter. Always remember, though, if you do want to experiment with trying to land the perfect rush, you can go ahead and just land perfect rushes whenever you want. All you got to do is do the backstab like I told you earlier. Like, it's never wrong to try and go for a perfect rush so long as you think that you have enough of an opening to punish the monster enough with the perfect rush. And remember that in between perfect rush attacks, you can dodge out of the way. So if you're caught midway into your perfect rush, like, oh, the monster's back up, ooh, dodge away. As a matter of fact, you can even dodge into another perfect rush, right? Oh, he caught me off guard. Dodge into another perfect rush. Oh, dodge into another perfect rush. Oops, I messed that up. My bad, my bad. But yeah, you can just go like dodge into perfect rush. You have to press the A button a little bit sooner while you're in the dodge. Dodge into another perfect rush. I don't tend to do the dodging into perfect rush all that much. Usually my perfect rushes are very deliberate. But yeah, you can go for all that. Now, with sliding slash, things get a little bit different. Not too different though, because basically instead of using the advancing slash, you're just using the sliding slash, and you just straight up go for it. Usually I go for the falling bash, like I said. But if your weapon has low raw, you might want to go for the slash every now and then. It all depends on what you're trying to do. Like, you might also be trying to chop a tail. And if you're trying to chop a tail, you're not going to go for the falling bash. But yeah, it's the same opener. Basically, X plus A sends you into the air. Shield bash, follow up with more shield bashes into the drill combo, into the spinning reaper, into the perfect rush. These are usually the combos that I go for in Sword and Shield. And finally, if you're one of the people that likes doing the infinite combo, again, I'm not saying this in a bad way, I'm just saying I personally don't like doing it. But if you are, the one that I would advise to go for would be XX, AA, X plus A. XX, AA, X plus A. No, I did the spinning rising slash. See, I keep messing it up. XX, AA, X plus A, XX, AA, X plus A, XX, AA, X plus A. And I messed it up already. But yeah, you get the idea. XX, AA, X plus A. And repeat forever. And you can keep adjusting and doing all the things that you used to do back in Monster Hunter World. That would be your infinite combo. And finally, like I said, the Silk Bind is going to depend on you. I try using Metsu as much as I can for the style and because it's fun. But if you want to go the safer route, you want to go for the Windmill because that is much more efficient. But, I mean, in my opinion, it's much more efficient. It's easier, more forgiving, etc., etc. But that's pretty much everything that I feel like you need to know to get you started with Sword and Shield. At this point, you just have to practice for yourself. In case you guys are wondering about armor skills and stuff like that, I will be doing builds, but to be honest with the Sword and Shield, you can build whatever you want, you know? Because, like, that's one of the things that I love about Sword and Shield. Like, if you look at my set, we have... This is a weird one. This is a very weird set. But it's got just like straight up attack boost, fire attack, part breaker, wire bug whisperer. It's got all kinds of cool skills, but you can do whatever you want, right? If you want to go for a crit build, you can do crit element, critical eye, weakness exploit. You can do that, but to each their own. Just remember to take a look at your weapon's ramp up skill, because sometimes some interesting things can come from that. In my case, for instance, I'm using a brutal strike weapon. What does that do? Well, it's got negative 20% affinity. I'm not sure if it shows here. Yeah, it does. It's got negative 20% affinity, but if I land one of those negative crits, there's a chance it's actually going to do more damage. And so then I just stack attack on top of everything and go to town. But, you know, that's not necessarily the best way to go about it. You should all just experiment, figure out which is the thing that you like the most. Because more important than playing the meta sets, because, you know, if you want meta, you want weakness exploit, you want critical boost. I don't even think you want critical element. I think you just want to go straight up for critical boost. So it's weakness exploit, critical boost, and critical eye, and as much attack and or agitator you can stuff on top of all of those skills, right? But personally, I would just suggest try going for more fun skills as opposed for meta skills, because to me, that is what makes the Sword and Shield so special. Is that unlike the gun lance that requires stuff like artillery, evade extender, otherwise it quite simply doesn't work, the Sword and Shield works with anything. So put whatever you want on it and just have a good time. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, if it helped you out, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy it, if it did not help you out, hit the dislike button. Feedback is important. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.